Welcome back to Legal Operations One-on-One series. Today, my guest is Jennifer Leonard. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hi, Rachita. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm so excited. We are talking about future of the legal profession, and this is, I think most people know by now that this is one topic that keeps me awake at night, and I always wonder that as leaders of today, are we doing enough for the future generation? Are we getting them ready for the changing market dynamics and how things are going to be in the next 5-10 years? So Jennifer does a lot of work with the Future of Profession Initiative at University of Pennsylvania. And I wanted to talk to Jennifer and understand in greater detail, what is it that this initiative is and what do you focus on?
Yeah, well, thank you so much again for having me, Rachita. And as you mentioned, I mean, things are changing so quickly. And the change is only going to accelerate. This year certainly has accelerated. Much of the change we already knew was taking place in the world and in the legal profession. So the Future of the Profession Initiative, which launched a year ago this month at the University of Pennsylvania Carey Law School, is a recognition that this change is happening and that leading law schools have both an opportunity to lead conversations about that change and an obligation to ensure that we are at the cutting edge and have a deep understanding of the change so that we can prepare our students to lead through this dynamic time. So the initiative itself teaches new law students about the changing dynamics in the profession, the skills they will need, the interdisciplinary approach to building networks that will allow them to navigate a landscape that none of us are familiar with, and tools that are agile that will grow with them.
Jennifer, I know that you are doing a lot of work. There are so few law schools in the U.S., some in Europe that are doing a lot of work. But I think across the globe, a number of law schools still have to do a lot of catch up, right? And what do you think? Where do they get started? Because I think it's not about now having to sit and plan, but really hitting the ground running as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can be overwhelming because, as you've noted, it's been too long without really innovating in the legal education realm. So if you think about it as this huge thing that you have to do overnight to adjust to all this change, it can be too overwhelming to even move forward. So I would say actually to start small. And build a coalition of the eager around you. And you will find once you start looking for this energy within your institution and your community, you will find people who have wanted to make change for a very long time and just have not had the opportunity or the forum within which to collaborate around that change. So your colleagues, faculty at your law school, the alumni community, the student community, anybody who is really eager about doing things differently and thinking differently. And then I would say playing to the strengths of your school or your organization. So if you are a law school that is not situated in a university that is known for having a fantastic technology program or access to leaders in technology, you may not want to start with technology. You may want to start with something like human-centered design or interdisciplinary collaboration. So think really about what the strengths of your organization are and then move toward those strengths through a lens of innovation. I would also say that creativity and leadership matter much more than resources matter in launching some of these efforts. So having the leader of your organization be on board is huge. Our dean is very interested in these topics and really understands the need to be thinking differently. And that goes a long way toward creating buy-in into your program. And then also being creative. I mean, the COVID crisis is a tragedy, and there are very few silver linings, but one is that we've learned how to use technology to host events and conversations that are virtually free, pardon the pun. So you no longer need to have a huge event budget to host a conference. You could do it over Zoom. And you can do a small event that has the capacity, if you get the right people in the room, to really generate some interesting discussion that you can share really broadly using social media.
I don't think legal education can happen in isolation without the corporates and law firms contributing to it. I think that definitely is the key. I don't expect institutes to, know everything that goes on in a corporation or in a law firm, and what are we actually looking from the future lawyer, right? So how do you think corporations and law firms can collaborate with law schools and make and strengthen this entire process of building the future?
Yeah, I think it's an essential question that we're trying to answer when it comes to innovation. We know from exploring the history of legal education that legal education was intentionally divorced from the profession at the outset, right? It was only about teaching you how to think like a lawyer, and then once you got to your employer, they would teach you what practice meant. That's no longer the case. That's no longer the world that we live in. So we need to be really intentional, recognizing that that's a foundation from which we've grown. We need to be intentional about designing ways to bring together people from all across the legal profession with the people who are forming the lawyers and educating the lawyers who will enter that profession. And being more broad than thinking just about lawyers, thinking about legal professionals and interdisciplinary teams. So I think bringing together the traditional leaders, the partners in law firms, increasingly the leaders in legal ops, but also people maybe who have previously not been invited to the conversation, people in other disciplines from IT, from business, engineering, places where you might not even think you would find inspiration for lawyers.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. This was very insightful and very helpful. Thank you for being here.
Rachida, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
Thanks everyone for watching.